work. Yeah, I think it works. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.
看看是什么。我声音不错。可以。也是。
听到了。今天我讲的是什么？
你看一下这个 flyer
有。没有改变。
我先把声音打开，你拿手。我去。
应该没。
但是你这里的声音这里也会出来，对吧？哪个声音？
一个那个声音大一点，那个是对。
然后这样子我们说话也是能听得到的，做测试一下。
今天应该插一次那个 speaker， 现在是有没有声音？
耳机来一个就可以了。
对，随便搞个耳机。听着了，左右是反过来的 ，OK， 因为那个线索在前面。
能固定就不动了吧？
不动的不动的。
不动的就这样。
你是set好一个位置，然后最好是往后挪一点，往后挪一点的最好，这样的。可以伸进去，但是不能。就没有在这最远是这样。左右是反过来的。没事的，现在是对的。
好像声音也有这样子。
应该有的。
我有听到你的声音。
听到。好的。
应该是好的，到时候如果有问题的话，我再调整一下。
还是没事。我听。
凳子够不够？
不知道，也不是。
后面还有那个白色凳子。
这样放后头。
都喜欢这个小的。我又没练，都是可以。
还是怕老不会在那。
小狗。
给他们叫，这个没有别的法的。
行。喂，我。
你刚才拍照片没那么小啊？这里看你自己拍的，多大？
这看不出来吧
Robbie。你俩都知道
我再买个汽车。
每人2个。
或者
他2个，我2个，你2个。
没有，就买个自主的给他做了嘛，就给他找得到。其实也不在。
也是这么小吗？
狗的话，有你家这个狗2/3长吧。2个小狗。
这个有趣。不要。
我觉得它的，我觉得它。
我看了，对啊。因为它很大呀。
你不知道，你放下来也就是
你自己视频。
看了，觉得你们没事情干可以先坐进去，然后那个电脑带进去，电脑的位置不要坐。
老板呢？不知道后面。小的话，
他的
他们买了一个，他们也那个过去之前，我之前的那个颜色，给他发这个颜色，他知道呢，他知道。怎么回事？他比较来的是啊，我找的这些，那个哦。
Okay, all right, so thank you everyone for coming. This is the second session of 3. So this is the business session. As you can see, there's 2 speakers that are still on their way. In business, sometimes you work late. So we're gonna get started for now. So I'm going to, in a minute, let the panelists introduce themselves. And we're just gonna go through. So the agenda for today is we're gonna go through a couple questions as a group. And then we're going to break out into breakout sessions. If you were here last week, we did the same thing. So you can actually get some alone time, some of these panelists, make an actual connection with them and kind of ask them more intimate questions that you're afraid to ask in a public setting. So you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Also, if you guys can't hear, feel free to just move up. I feel like I can't see most of you guys, but my name is Frances. I am here as a part of we're actually part of Renewal Church. We meet on Sundays, but also I work very closely with PCDC all my life. Do you want us to say anything, or you want to ask us questions later, or like, do you want to?
Yeah, so I just
our background?
like a little bit of background, like why you chose your career path, what you do.
Oh,
yeah.
The whole shebang right now.
Well, no, just
Yeah, okay, so yeah, I can share a little more about myself. So I grew up in this New Jersey, Philly area actually, and I grew up coming into Chinatown pretty often because my parents work out here and things like that. But I mainly lived in New Jersey. I went to C4. I used to go to Holy Redeemer actually for like mass and stuff as well. But I grew up in Jersey all my life, and then I went to Rutgers University, which is our state university. So we have a few. There's Camden, there's New Brunswick, and then there's Newark at the top of Jersey. But it's a great school. I actually did not intend to go there, and I didn't really think of it as something I wanted to be in, but I think that's where I was taught a good lesson because I ended up going there, but it was actually a really great school with really great resources, and I think it allowed me to meet just like the people that I'm supposed to meet. I went into Rutgers as a finance major. In business. Beforehand, I was actually pretty much I thought I was going to be pre-med and go and be a pediatrician, but that changed vastly as I was like applying to schools and stuff and realized that my skills lie more on the business side. So I came into the business school, finance major. I realized that after taking a couple classes, I was not made out for a finance role. That's just not what I want to do. But Sam here is in finance, so he can tell you the opposite. But thank you. I actually thought about dropping out. So I'm telling you all this because like the process in choosing like majors is pretty difficult. Even when you're in there, you may not know what you want to do. I thought about changing from business to like public health or something like that because my heart was still like set on like health and everything. But eventually I think I realized I could do an intersection of both and just find like how I can do business within healthcare, which is where I am now. And I'll share a little more about that later. Yeah.
Hi everybody, I'm Sam. I grew up in Houston and born and raised there, and I first made my way to Philly. So I went to Penn for my undergrad, and I did undergrad business. So I was at Wharton, and I was a finance and accounting concentration there. And then I spent 5 years in San Francisco after I graduated. So I worked at 2 different investment firms there. So like Francis said, I worked in like the intersection of like finance and investing. And yeah, so I spent 5 years there, and then I came back to Philly in 2020 to get my MBA at Wharton too. So I'm currently a second year and I'm about to graduate, and I'm actually moving to Dallas to work in finance still. I think for me, I originally, when I was in high school, like I think my parents wanted me to be a doctor similarly, but I, for myself, realized that one, like I just wasn't that good at, like I was okay at science, but there are like other people that were like better than me at biology or chemistry, and like even though like I was like fine at them, it didn't get me super excited, but I really liked numbers and like analyzing, and like I enjoyed like statistics, and so I think that helped me like think a little bit more about like what like maybe I can pivot and do something that is like a little bit more numbers focused. And then I think the second thing, and I think this is something that like I've realized over time, is within business, like it's not only like you need to understand the numbers, but I think there is always like a person, like you have to be able to build relationships with people, and there's like a relationship aspect to the business world. And I think that's something I really enjoy. I really like meeting new people, learning new things, and getting to like, yeah, just kind of travel and meet different kind of companies. And so I think business for me has been really interesting. And so happy to share more later.
All right, and then right on time
Hello, sorry I'm late.
is Ernest. If you want to do this a little quick intro.
Hi, everyone, I'm Ernest. I work as the Chief Operating Officer for an education nonprofit, which I'm happy to explain what that means, called 12 Plus. And our mission is we actually work with high schoolers here in Philadelphia. And we kind of work with, if any of you have worked with like a guidance counselor before, we do a lot of work helping students figure out what they want to do after high school. So whether that's going to college, whether that's finding a job, whether that's getting job training, we do a lot of work and support around that. So that's kind of the mission of the nonprofit that I help run.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll start with Sam and come back, give her a chance to take a breath. So can you give like maybe like a little bit more detail on like what an average day in your life looks like in your job, and I guess for individuals who actually want to look at your job, like what you'd actually call the business world.
Yeah, so I do what's something called private equity. And so maybe just like the very short explanation is like a lot of people, you can invest in the stock market. And so there's like all very like, these are public companies like Facebook, Microsoft, Apple. You can invest in like these larger companies. And what I do is basically we get money from a lot of different areas like pension funds or like schools, and we help invest them. And so we invest them in private companies. And so for us, like I think what a typical day, I think every day is like a little bit different, but I think I spend a lot of time, in my role now, just there's like when we look at different companies to buy, there's a lot of different people that are involved. So like there's somebody who's like helping sell the company, and then there's somebody who is actually like running the company. And so we spend a lot of time like on the phone or like traveling to meet people and get to know them, get to know their business, understand like what's good about the business, what's bad, like where do they feel like they need help. And then we also spend a lot of time with like other people, on our team to like put together presentations or like model out, like use Excel to like figure out like how quickly this business is going to grow. And so we usually kind of put all that into a package and then present that to like what we call our investment committee, which is basically kind of the older people at the company, and they kind of they help us determine whether or not we should invest or buy this company. And so I think that's like one part of it. And then once we actually buy the company, we spend time helping them trying to grow. So we help them like figure out how many people do they need to hire to like grow the business, where do they need to invest like to help their product become better. And like, at the point we want to sell the company to somebody else, we help them kind of figure out what's the right time, how do they like market themselves to other buyers. And so it's a lot of, I think part of the role is, like I was saying, it's a lot of analysis, like understanding like the numbers behind the company, like what's driving the company, but then there's a lot of relationship building with the company and executives, the CEO, the CFO, the chief financial officer, and like other parties that are around the company.
So I am in analytics. I work a lot with data specifically, but I do it from more of a strategic sense, whereas I have a team of consultants who get into some of the numbers piece and more of the technical pieces and help create these dashboards. And then I work a lot with our business partners and our stakeholders. So essentially what it looks like we're doing is we're taking a look at our quote unquote clients internally and looking at all the data that they have, because they may not be numbers people as much or data people as much. And we help them see how we can make it easier for them to understand the data and how powerful it is in making decisions for them. So we'll take like, you can imagine like an Excel sheet with like 1 billion numbers and like columns and such. So we'll take that and figure out like what other data do they have, that we could connect it to in the background. And we also work with IT who may like develop and code in the background, and they'll publish it within, we use something called Tableau. Tableau dashboards for data visualization. If you guys are interested later, I actually brought my laptop and you guys can take a look at like what a dashboard looks like, a Tableau looks like, and how the process works. But our consultants will do a lot more of the numbers crunching, the connecting, and then we'll build out the dashboard together with our stakeholders. So we might create like bar charts, or like there are like a lot of different like graphs, just to see like what kind of cool insights can we figure out from it. Like for instance, we, in my role specifically, we ask a lot of questions. So if you're like really curious about things, and you might want to ask like, oh, how much using this data, how can we tell in 5 years how much we might be making then, or something like that. Very simplified version. So that's like the numbers piece of my role, but the whole other piece of my role is a lot of stakeholder management, in the sense of I need to talk with different groups. I kind of need to, how do I say it? Kind of need to manage what they want compared to like what is possible, because they might have like all these like dreams of like, oh, can we do this, this, and this, and we will do our best to see, but we'll basically be like, oh, we can do this with the data, or it's not possible, or something like that. We do a lot of presentations to leadership as well, Sam was mentioning, just to show, make sure that we can answer like some of the company's most important questions as well. So specifically for my role, I work with a team called procurement, and procurement is basically, you can think of it as like purchasing within the company. But I also support D&I, so diversity and inclusion. And we work with some teams such as like health equity, making sure people have equal to healthcare in the world, patient affordability, D&I in the more general sense of like making sure our company is hiring, making sure we have like women, different diverse groups, minority, LGBT, etc., leaders in the company. So those are 2 teams I support. And then I also want to mention that you don't need to major in like business analytics to necessarily get into this role, or like in fact any role in business. You could jump from role to role as you network around. My concentrations or majors were actually in supply chain management and marketing, and then I just so happened to be doing a lot of data, and I happen to like it a lot, so I changed my departments and went into this the past year. Yeah. Ernest? No.
Yeah, we can get, great. So it's like what roles we have?
Yeah, like what your everyday life looks like.
Oh, okay, yeah. So as I mentioned, I run a nonprofit, which is kind of basically like running a small business. Is anyone actually interested in running their own business? Okay, 1, 2, all right, yeah, good for you guys. It's a bold endeavor. Because as far as like a typical day responsibilities, it's kind of like a lot, everything. So I do, and every day because of that is a little bit different. So, you know, it includes everything from like HR, so human resources, so everything from hiring and recruiting, you know, new employees. It's a lot of management. I do a lot of management in my roles. So I'm more of a kind of a senior level director at my company. So I manage kind of the middle managers, if you could think about it, who then manage on top of the kind of people who are doing the day-to-day work. In our case, that is, we run what are called, we're called 12 plus. So we have things called plus centers, and those are basically a student resource center / kind of library / computer lab that exists in all of the high schools that we partner with. So these plus centers are spaces that any high school students, 9th through 12th grade, can access at any time. And we are full-time during the school day. So basically, from pretty much before you start the school day, let's say at like 8 a.m. or like 7:30, we're there. And then we're usually there through the end of the day, and usually until after, about an hour after school. So those are running full-time, and they are doing a lot of the kind of, they're meeting with students, they're teaching workshops inside the students' classrooms, everything about, when it comes to post-secondary planning. So you can think about like understanding. So you guys might be thinking about like, do I want to go to college? If I go to college, like what kind of college do I want to go to? Or if I do go to college, what do I want to study when I go to college? And like, what's going to be most valuable for me? So we do a lot of kind of, you can think about like teaching lessons on that, but we don't give homework, which is great. And usually students appreciate that. So it's just the information there for the students. So in order to make that all happen, right, there's a lot of planning that goes into that. There's a lot of strategy as far as being able to work with teachers and counselors and different members of our school staff to be able to kind of do our programs. So I do a lot of overseeing that, and part of my management responsibilities is supporting, our staff on the ground to make sure that they're able to do their jobs really well. A big piece of that is also is data and managing data. So I also work a lot with spreadsheets. I love spreadsheets. I know that's kind of weird, but I love them because I think a good spreadsheet is really powerful because it can tell you a lot of really important and useful things. And that's really important in our job because as a nonprofit, we're not ultimately looking to like make money, hence the nonprofit piece. Our goal is we want to accomplish our mission, right? Which is to help and support and empower high school students here in Philadelphia. So in order to know if we're doing a good job at that, it requires a lot of data and capturing data. So how many students are applying to college, getting accepted to college, how much money are they getting to go there, all these kind of things that we are supporting and doing with students, we need to keep track of. So I also manage a lot of that. So yeah, I can go on. But so if you're curious to learn more, I'm happy to kind of chat more when we do breakout sessions. But I get to do a little bit of everything, which I love actually, because I've gotten to learn how to build a lot of different skills in a lot of different areas. So that's exciting for me. Yes.
And last but not least, Ian. So I think everyone talked about like a little bit about their background, like their career journey, and like why they chose the job they are, and obviously what your actual job is on your everyday life.
Yeah. First off, I totally apologize for being late. Running on that. All right. So hi everyone, I'm Ian. I am a management consultant right now. I work for a company called RSM, which is like an accounting firm. More on that later. I went to Penn State when I was going to college. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I figured out what I wanted to do by process of elimination. I was like, what was I good at? Like at science? No. Do I enjoy medicine stuff? No. Like I can't handle gore or blood or queasy. Like no. Do I want to do like liberal arts stuff, like reading and writing and whatever, politics? Like not really me. So I went into school undecided, and then I was like, and I started like checking out different classes and stuff like that. And I was like, all right, let's try this business thing because I think I can like relate to people to some degree. So then I went to start to do business classes. I got really involved in like certain business clubs, and then I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do this. So I actually graduated from Penn State with supply chain management as well. No one really knew what that meant back in 2011, like when I was first applying to college. Like no one knew what supply chain management really was. Now it's like, now everybody knows what it is. It's like, that's why you're not getting your orders from wherever they meet, like whatever your online orders are. That's why like they're not coming on time because supply chain management issues, right? Well, that's what I majored in. Can I fix your problems? No, I can't. But I left when I graduated from Penn State. I worked at Boeing, which is down in Ridley Park. And I was doing like supply chain management stuff. So I actually did a job in my major, which at the time was a little bit rare for my friend group because companies were still trying to figure out like what supply chain management was. I luckily got a job in that, and I realized quickly that I didn't really like it. So then I decided to switch over to more like a data team. So I kind of like, I don't know, I was like business people, they like to talk a lot. But I didn't always feel like they used like facts to back it up. So then I was like, I need to go to data team to like figure out how to like, create facts and stuff like that, like create like a good way of thinking essentially. So I did that, and then I feel like I accomplished what I needed to like learn there. And then I moved over to consulting. And who here knows what consulting is? And if anyone raises their hand, they're a dirty liar. All right?
Consulting, is it like somebody who like helps you consult like business decisions?
That is a very good, that's a very good start. I like that. All right. So essentially, like if you guys have like younger brothers and sisters, and if you guys decide to take the SATs, or your younger brothers and sisters decide to take the SAT at some point, they're gonna ask you, older brother or sister, hey, can you help me out with the math section? You weren't very good at the English section, which is fine. I'll go get help there. But the math section, I wasn't very good. Can you help me? And you, being the smart students that you are, like, you know what? I was pretty good at math, wasn't great at English, whatever. I'm gonna help you with the math. And you're gonna sit with them for like an hour a day or something like that and help them like work through it. All right. That is what consulting is in a nutshell. Consulting companies are very good at specific skill sets, and companies are not good at these skill sets because they're focused on producing a water bottle, making paper, Amazon stuff. Like they're good at that stuff, but they're not good at like finance. They're not good at supply chain. So then they want help with those things. That is where they bring consultants in to be like, hey, you guys have helped a bunch of people with the same problem. You help us do the same thing. So it's a lot of like doing, helping the same companies over and over again until they get to the place that they want to be. So that is who I am and what I do. And I'm happy to answer any questions in the future. I did a lot of Asian clubs when I was in like college and even outside of college. Like I ran like the Asian organization in Boeing. I'm on the board for an Asian business association right now in Philly. So, anything there I can help you all with.
Awesome. All right. So any questions from the group here before we go into breakout sessions?
Do you think that it's going to be difficult to find a sustainable job under a field in business? It's gonna be easy.
It's my opinion.
Aren't the rates low? Like for job seekers?
I mean, actually, right now it's very relatively easy to get a job. There's a lot of places that are hiring, and there's a lot of people that are leaving their current jobs. So there's a lot of businesses in general are really looking to hire people. Big part of that is because of COVID and the pandemic, and I think people realizing that it's, if you're especially in a job that you don't like and that you're just doing it for a paycheck, and maybe that's not enough. So you have a lot of people right now that are actually leaving their jobs and looking for something that suits what they want better, whether that's they want to work remotely or they feel like they want to make more money. So actually, at least right now, it's relatively, I would say, easy. And I think there's like even people in our age group are finding opportunities and finding jobs. So a lot of employers are actually, there's in general in a lot of different industries, there's not enough skilled people to fill the jobs that are available right now, actually.
I guess I'm curious, like, what the intent of the question, like, was there something that you saw that makes you unsure about the outlook of business jobs availability in the future?
Personally, I'm interested in business, but after doing like research, I've heard like getting a business degree or whatever, it has like a low success chance of finding a job.
I would say getting a business degree is actually pretty broad. As in like, when I was in business, I was like, what does this mean? Like, what jobs can I get? Even when I was in business school, and that's where like saying I eliminated majors and like things that I knew I didn't like or wasn't good at. And that's how I found out what I wanted to do. But I would say do a mixture of both. There are a lot of jobs in business, and it's really a lot bigger than you think it is, where it's like business can be like owning a business to finance, analytics, supply chain. running businesses, so we're nonprofits, to like recruiting people, HR, to like all these like smaller jobs that you wouldn't think necessarily fits in. What business school does is give you like a broad like scope of skills and understanding of like how businesses work, which I felt was helpful as just like a good life skill. So I would say I'm not saying like you guys definitely should go for it. Figure out like if you like business, if you think you're good, like if you like talking to people, if you like numbers and things, figure out what you like to do, and then look at like what's coming in the future as well. Right now, there are a lot of jobs in analytics right now, which is why you see like two of us on here, or like supply chain. We both have supply chain major backgrounds in there. There's always people in finance that is necessary, and then there could be like some areas that may fall off a little. So yeah, just see like trends out there. Google like what are top jobs, trends and things.
I think in comparison to some jobs out there, like sure, business may not be as sought out after as, let's say, I'm gonna throw it out there, no facts, like software engineering, like I'm gonna throw it out there. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that there's no demand, because like the amount of like people, like first off, a record number of people left their job over the past year over than any other time like in the US than like history, essentially. So this switching back and forth, and also a record number of people starting their own businesses, some people leaving typical corporate jobs to like start their own ventures and whatnot, and COVID causing a different type of like business world. It's different now. Like the rules 3 years ago don't necessarily apply now, in my opinion. So that's why you see a number of like new job and opportunities popping up. So like I truthfully, like demand is not something that's also within your control. Like business demand, that's not in your control. But what is in your control is you finding like where you want, like where your, like what your interests are, and you getting really good at whatever those interests can be. Like that's within your control.
I will add to just from what Francis was saying too. So I didn't study business actually in college. I studied biology, neuroscience in particular, because I thought I wanted to do the medical path. And I would say, and business majors, please, chime in too, because like I don't, in my current position and job, I don't use like anything I learned in my life classes. Not saying you shouldn't if you're inclined to that. Obviously, if you're going into healthcare, that's really important. But I imagine if I had studied business, I actually would have a much, and I think back and I was like, oh, if I, would redo it, I probably would take more business classes, because if you want to be, even like healthcare companies, for example, have a business component, right? Pharmacy companies, right, have a business, like every like kind of business that works with money, which is most of them, there's a financial component, there's a business component, and you need people who are really smart and can make really good decisions when it comes to money. You need to understand the landscape and understand good business strategy to run those pieces. So I would say it's a very, and I knew, because when I was in high school and college, and my parents or people, they're like, so study business, it's practical. And I'd be like, yeah, but I want to do this. And like, but now being on the other side of it, I can definitely say there's definitely many pieces of, even if you're not majoring in, I would still definitely recommend taking some business classes, because I think there is a practicality to it that is going to be actually translated to if you do any job related that has financial components. So
I'm waiting that your press were right.
They were right. That's right, ultimately.
So I think now we're gonna break out into breakout sessions, so you can spend some time with them individually. So I'm gonna count off in 4 for each, but if there is someone that you actually really want to go talk to, then feel free to leave the number that I tell you with their contact list as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1s will go with Ernest, 2s go with Ian, 3s go with Francis, 4s go with Sam.
Where are we going?
Yeah, so Sam can go to the gym.
Just the whole gym.
Give a round of applause for our speakers.
So, we're going to take like a 5 to 7 minute break for everyone's mental sake. And also, I'm sure you don't want to sit here for another hour. So, just couple quick announcements. So before you leave, if you connected with someone here or want to connect with someone later, please scan the QR codes here. If you scan the QR code, it'll lead directly to their bios, contact information, so you can reach out to them maybe for mentorship later if you want. So please do that. If you're staying for the next session, just come back to this room in 5 to 7 minutes. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all again. This is session number 2 of the day. Some familiar faces, some new faces. So we're gonna do the same thing as last time. So we're gonna have 20, 30 minutes of panel interview questions, and then we're gonna do breakout sessions again. And as you did last session, feel free to move around to groups and connect with people on an individual level if you're more interested in what they're doing. So without further ado, we'll introduce our panelists. We'll start with Joe, move down. So maybe just like, just like a brief background and kind of just really like what your job title is.
All right. Hey, I'm Joe. I am a software engineer in Philly.
Hi, my name is Jerry. I'm a senior site manager working in pharmaceuticals.
I'm Hannah. I'm getting my PhD in neuroscience, and I also direct this STEM-based nonprofit.
Hi everyone, I'm Alice. I am currently a master's student studying public health.
Hi everyone, I'm Christine. I'm a clinical study coordinator for the metabolism department.
Can you guys hear in the back? You guys hear? Cool. Okay, cool. All right. So can you tell us a little bit about like what major you chose in college and how that may or may not have helped you in your current role?
Yeah. So personally, I went originally into electrical engineering. Kind of went into a sub-major called computer engineering, which is more towards building computer chips / making processors. Honestly, it didn't super help my current job as a software engineer. Electrical engineering, computer engineering is a lot more hardware. But there is a little bit of programming, and it's kind of how I got my foot into the door of knowing that I liked and enjoyed making software.
I originally went into pharmacy school. I went through my professional years. Part of it, I ended up leaving to join pharmacology and toxicology major. And I felt like this direction was better fit for me because I wanted to go directly into industry. And I believe that major overall helped because it is a pretty unique major from the science major, like from like biology or chemistry or like biochemistry. Like pharmacology and toxicology is more, I guess, fitting for the pharmaceutical industry. Even though the major itself is related to more preclinical work, like lab-related or research-related work, it was still beneficial because this idea of like learning about pharmacology and how drug or medicine work is essential for, I guess, my current role. So pharmacology and toxicology as one major did benefit my career.
I was a double major in college. I was a music major and also a biology major. The music major did nothing for my current degree program directly. I just thought it would be a lot of fun, and it was. And then the biology, I was trained that in college for a really, really long time. So my original goal was to do an MD PhD. And I kind of decided at the last minute not to do the MD and just to do the PhD. And I'm doing my PhD in neuroscience, but I went to a really small school for college that didn't actually have any neuroscience education. And so the biology was great because it created a foundation to understand science as a whole, but didn't really do that much to actually inform like what I study now. So it helped, but not a whole lot like direct knowledge.
Like Hannah, I went to a small like liberal arts college where you don't really go in with a set major. Like I went in with an art history major, but didn't plan to major in art history by the time I got there. And by the end, I studied chemistry and Spanish, and it was just, that was possible because of the school that I was at. But yeah, Spanish I didn't think would do much. It was just like a passion project of mine. But, and then chemistry I decided to do because I was encouraged to do it early on by some professors, and I met some good friends in the department, and I was like, hey, why not stick with it for a little bit?
So I wouldn't say my major was really helpful for my current job. I was actually a business marketing major. So it's pretty incongruent with my current job. I just learned that if you can somehow draw parallels with your previous jobs, then it could help you get into the field. For instance, I made a lot of presentations. In my old job, I worked with data. And I, did like some kind of interpersonal stuff. So I just kind of drew parallels with that, with clinical research. I also did a postdoc in health sciences, which wasn't super helpful. They like to hire people with like MPH or with more of a solid 4 years pre-med background and more lab experience. So just somehow drawing parallels with your own experience and just proving that you're willing to work hard could help you get to the field.
And so I guess like to break your jobs out, what does an average day in your life look like?
Software engineering. It's really dependent on where you're at in your career / really what you want to do. When you're choosing your job as a software engineer, you can work in a lot of different fields, whether that's games or it's like websites, applications on your phone. But a lot of the time, kind of what you're building dictates how you spend your time. Personally, I spend a lot of time actually in meetings, a lot of planning, because when you're building something, you don't want to build the wrong thing. So you'll spend a lot of time actually talking with the people on the business side to say, hey, what is it you actually want? And then once you start building it, you want to make sure that you build the foundation well. So then that comes in with planning called architecture, where you're planning out like, these are the steps you have to do. And then a lot of my time is actually just spent on the computer, just typing away, coding away, trying to build what we plan to build. Yeah.
My day-to-day is very different. I don't go to the office. I'm regionally based. So I work from home and I travel to different academic institutions, hospitals, or clinical sites like every month. So it's sort of like I'm either traveling, going to sites and interacting with doctors, nurses, coordinators, or I'm at home kind of overseeing my region / sites that I'm assigned to. So I'm based in the Northeast region. So I manage a lot of sites in the Northeast area, like Boston, New York, Rhode Island, Maine. I cover those sites that's participating in my study or in our company study. So the first day to day, I'm either traveling or on site, or I'm at home, kind of preparing and overseeing, like running reports, writing emails, doing my site visit report. If I recently went to a site visit, I have to write my report. Because ultimately everything that I do gets documented and kind of gets documented for the FDA review in the future. So yeah, everything I do is documented in a report based off my site visits. And in other days, I'm just like, answering questions with the site is asking me, whether it's like patient related or protocol related. Yeah, this day to day is very different, so it keeps the job pretty like, I guess, on your toes. Each day is a little different.
Okay, so just to give like a broad overview of the PhD, specifically for life sciences and like biomedical sciences, they tend to average around 5 to 6 years. Hopefully 5. But the first 2 years are mostly like you're just taking classes and kind of like trying out different laboratories and seeing what you like best. And then the last 4 years, 3 to 4 years, you're really just doing like the experiments and the project that will form your thesis work. And so it really depends on what kind of lab you join. Neuroscience as a field is very broad. And so I have friends who do strictly computational work or just work with like imaging, like MRI imaging. I work in a lab that uses mice a lot and we model different human diseases. So I spend a lot of time slicing mice brains during the day and like looking for certain proteins and things like that. So I'd say that the great thing I really like about the PhD is it's really flexible. And so there are days I'll go at 7 and there are days I'll go at 10 and then I can leave at like today up at 2 p.m. But like there are other days where like, I have to stay late and work on something. So I really love the creativity that comes with getting to design experiments and kind of run your own project. So it kind of depends on the day. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I'm still a student and getting my master's in public health. And so my day to day is just going to classes and I also do research on the side. And so that's where like the connection with STEM comes in for me. So while I was in college, I did research with professors in biology and chemistry, and I just learned skills along the ways. Like I would say that y'all can, especially you can tell me if I'm wrong, but like a lot of people are starting to use like a lot of softwares, like you're learning like MATLAB or other statistical softwares. And so learning that in my like chemistry lab has been proven useful for public health even. And so there are a lot of transferable skills in STEM. And so I would, even if that's not what you end up doing, like how I made a pivot to public health, it's still a very like helpful field to study in college, I would say.
So for my work, I would say big picture wise, the doctor, his principal investigator, designs the experiments that involves patients, and specifically we work with patients with rare diseases and or gene disorders. So my work could also vary a lot. It could be working a lot with the doctors, nurses, nutritionists, like clinical team, trying to coordinate with them, understanding the patient and like taking their history, collecting their vitals, their vital samples, their urine, taking their measurements, bringing them to imaging, so that there is a clinical side to it, just doing a lot of patient interaction, administering them like questionnaires and forms. So there is a lot of people facing side involved. And there's also a data entry side, actually entering the data and organizing and managing it. And then there's also the more mundane side, which is doing more housekeeping, like doing grant work, or kind of like doing a lot of admin. So the day-to-day can really vary for my job.
So any questions from the group for our panelists? Okay, one last question for a breakout. What advice would you give high school students who might be interested in your career?
For me, you have computers, hopefully, you have the internet. Coding and programming is something that you can start learning by yourself. It takes some discipline, but there's so many free resources out there and so many ways to learn it that if you have any interest, you can really just start dipping your toes in it and trying to see if you enjoy what programming is.
My advice is that I'll definitely explore career fields, especially within science and science and healthcare, beyond what's traditional. Like there's traditional career areas beyond like doctor, nurse, or pharmacist. There's a lot of careers beyond that, and I'm really thankful I just discovered my career industry because I really enjoy doing what I do, and I'm a big advocate about sharing what I do. And I guess if someone was to go into I guess industry or clinical research or pharmaceutical research, definitely try to whether volunteer or work as assistants in big hospitals that's in clinical research, or clinical sites, small clinical sites that's in clinical research. And that could be the starting point to make your way towards industry.
I think research is the kind of thing where you don't know if you want to do it until you actually do it. Like it's hard to kind of conceptualize what it is, and so I think that even if you're like pre-med or you're not sure if you want to do a PhD, getting research experience can be beneficial in a myriad of ways. So I would just suggest trying it out. It doesn't hurt to just if you're in college, like do a semester and you're like, wow, I really like this, or wow, this really sucks. It doesn't hurt anyone. So if you're even curious about it, I think as a PhD student, I love when students reach out and ask I want to learn more about your doing, or I want to come in and watch you or practice something. I personally love hearing that from younger students, and so I think that scientists are not scary. We're actually all kind of awkward. So I think it's okay to just reach out if it's just something you think you're interested in.
I think I want to echo Jerry's advice, just to explore and be open to opportunities out there. Like for me, after graduating, I did a year of AmeriCorps, which is like direct service work. I was at a community health center in North Philly. And that experience like showed me that I didn't want to do clinical experiences. And now I'm kind of back doing different types of research in public health. And so, yeah, there's time and I'm still figuring it out. So you all have plenty of time as well.
Yeah, I would say for clinical research, the field is pretty diverse. Your job could look pretty different depending on what specialty or team you join. I would recommend trying to find really supportive teams or a good mentor. That way, if you had certain passion projects or interests that you want to develop more, you could kind of work with them on that. For instance, if you wanted to develop that data analysis side more, it would be good to have someone who is open to kind of like having you build that up. Or if you wanted to work on like the patient-facing side more, they would be able to give you more opportunities for that too. So just trying to find a good team, and also trying to, if you don't really get in like a conventional way, like your study doesn't really line up, trying to take something that, trying to be open to taking a job that you didn't like in the first place, because I was originally in the emergency department, which I wasn't really open to, but that ended up leading to my current job.
All right, so now we're gonna go into breakout sessions. So we're gonna count to 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. So 1s go with Joe, 2 goes with Jerry, 3s go with Hannah, 4s go with Alice, 5s go with Christine. So Joe, do you mind going to the gym?
Yeah.
So 1s with Joe, go to the gym. And if you're interested in software, feel free to just join Joe's group anyway. 2s go with Jerry. Jerry, do you mind speaking on like the brand lights there? Yeah. So Jerry. 3s go with Hannah. You want to stay here?
Yeah.
Okay, so Hannah stays here. Yeah. You also.
Sure, I can be in the gym.
Okay. Follow Alice to the gym if you're in Alice's group. Hannah can just come up here in the front of the room, and then 5s, Christine can go to the back. 5s.
I want to go back, right?
5. Okay, so we go with Christine. 5, Christine. You go to the back of the room. Or Hannah's
Hello.
here.
You can pull the chair.
Yeah, you can pull up chairs. You can pull up chairs.